Hello and welcome back to the Studio I YouTube channel. I am really excited today because not only do I have a new mic, which is so exciting because that means that I'm no longer dependent on whether my boyfriend is home or not. I also have some RGB lights and we are talking about such an exciting topic today. So I hope you'll excuse me that this podcast episode is 2 days late. Shit hit the fan and it just kept hitting this week. It is what it is. So today I will actually be talking about my whole entire foundation of this channel and my brand, and that is how to create your dream life. I wanted before 2023 starts and before we can actually get going on goal setting and all of those things, I wanted to give you the ultimate guide on how to create your dream life with all the layers, all the aspects, and everything in between. So it's gonna be a little bit of a longer episode, probably. I hope that's okay with you. It will be packed with value. Creating your dream life is not something that is just one snap and it's done. It's not something that you go and sit down at your journal and you just write it all down. There's way more to it, but at least that journaling session and setting those intentions is the base of it. And the base of it is what I want to talk about today. So there's basically, I think 4-5 steps. Let me have a look. Yeah. So we have who you are, what you want, and then the goals that come out of that, the limits that you need to overcome, and then basically all the planning that you need to do to make it fit into your daily life and to actually make the change that you want to see. So the first thing that you have to figure out before you can even start figuring out what your dream life is who you are. Because who you are is the complete foundation of everything and anything that you do. And if you know who you are and what you need in life and what your desires are and yada yada yada, it will be much easier to create a life that goes with that, and it will be so much easier to actually understand what makes you happy and what doesn't. The first thing that will help with that is knowing what your values are. Values are the foundation of your life. They correspond to what is the deepest desire and what you value the most, hence the name values. And if we live in line with our values, you are going to feel so much more content in life than if you are going against them. So that's why I always start with knowing what your values are. And it's actually pretty easy to figure out what they are. You just have to look at your current life and what makes you feel in what type of way. You can write this down or you can do this after the exercise. I have a free download that you can use that I will link in the description down below. So the first question being, what were the best moments in your life? What brought you so much joy? What moments were amazing and why were they amazing? That's also very important, the why aspect. And then we're going to look at the other end of the spectrum. What were the worst moments in your life and what made them so bad? And then we have the activities. We have the everyday things that we do. What are those activities that you cannot live without? What are those things that make or break a day or your life or your year in general? And what are the things that you hate? What are the things that really drain you or that don't bring you any joy at all? Those things together will form patterns, and with those patterns you can then eventually start figuring out what your values are. For example, and I think I used this example in another podcast episode already, if the pandemic was one of the worst experiences of your life because you had to be inside and you had to follow rules, then you probably value freedom, connection with other people, belonging, things like that. If you really need your planner every day, then you value structure and you value being organized. Try to find 5 to 7 values, things that are really core to your soul and that make your heart happy and that fulfill you. Those are your values, and those are the things that we're going to build all the rest upon. So yes, you have your values and those are things that bring you joy and make you happy, but you also have those things in everyday life. What are those things on a regular weekday or weekend day that make you happy, that fill you up, that light your soul? What are those things? If you know what those things are, then you can start incorporating more of them into your dream life, because basically the things that we already love so much are often an indication of what it is that we should be doing with our lives that will eventually become our dream life. And then we have our talents and our limitations. I mean, not everything about your dream life is about your career, But we have to admit that we work a lot and that your career will probably be a big part of your dream life. In order to find something that you love, look at what you're good at and look at what your limitations are. Try to find a job or something that you do in life that play into those strengths and that limits the weaknesses. And limiting the weaknesses is not about trying to get better and better and better at them all the time. It's about accepting that you're not good at them and then finding other people that can do that for you. We know who you are, or at least you've tried to figure it out. If you know who you are, then we can move on to what you want. And this is obviously, for most people, this will be the most exciting part of the episodes. It's also one of my favorite things. So what I like to do the most, and what I find one of the most powerful ways to change your life, is to create a vision. We as humans, we absolutely love a good story. And we often admire celebrities and other people's lives. And by creating a vision, you basically create a story or a life that then you can go and aspire to live. So instead of looking at somebody else, you're going to create your perfect version of your life. And you can do this long term, shorter term. Every time I set goals, I am creating a vision, for sure. But for imagining your dream life, I want you to focus on how your life will look in 3 years' time. And then when you translate your goals into shorter periods of time, that is when you can add other visions. But the most powerful and impact one is the 3-year one, because we often underestimate what we can do in that period of time, because once we put a vision on a year, it's going to feel like you don't have enough time. So that's why we take 3 years. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and you can all write them all down, or I will list them all out in the description box as well. So you can go there and answer them after the video if you prefer that. So what will your life look like in 3 years? Where do you live? What is near your home? What does your home look like and feel like? Did you buy that home, or are you enjoying the freedom of renting it? And how do your finances look? Do you have a certain amount of savings, or are you just living without a budget? So do you have a budget, or are you pretty loose with your money? How much do you earn a year? What do you spend that money that you earn on? What is important? What does your job look like? What do you do for work? Do you work for yourself? Do you work for a company? Is that company big or is it small? What is the work culture like? Do you work from home or do you work in an office? How many days per week do you work? And how many hours? And what exactly is it that you do? What does your job entail? And how do you spend your free time? What are your hobbies? Who are the people that you spend time with? Do you travel a lot? How do you feel? Are you free? Are you settled? Are you somewhere in between? What is important in your life right now? And how are you taking care of your mental health? How are you taking care of your physical health? Do you eat healthy? Do you work out? And how are your relationships looking? Do you have a bunch of new friends? Did you reconnect on a deeper level with the people that are already in your life? Or are you single? Are you married? Are you dating? Do you have kids, maybe? And do you have any exciting travel plans? Are there places that you have been by now? And lastly, how did you grow? Have you become who you wanted to be, or are you on your way? Any new skills that you have developed? Or have you become more confident, less anxious? Have you become a kinder person? And if there's anything that I missed or anything that you think you would value in your life that I haven't asked a question about, feel free to add it to your vision. This vision is highly personal. It is not meant to be something that is socially acceptable or the general idea of success. It is really focused on what you want your life to look like in 3 years. So take your time and dive deep and think of it. And if you find it really, really hard to do this, then maybe think about an anti-vision. Think about all of the questions that I asked above, but about what you don't want. What is the absolute worst outcome in those areas that you can think of? My cat is scratching at the door. Okay, so I've moved places a million times because everything is going wrong, but I will get this video out today. It will happen. I am not taking no for an answer, universe. So you have created your vision or your anti-vision, and then you can focus on who you want to be. So you figured out what you want your life to look at, and now you can go and figure out who you want to be. What are the characteristics that you want to have? What are the traits that you want to have? You can change your personality if you want to. For example, if you want to be a bubbly person and a happy person, think of what a bubbly, happy person does and try to adopt those characteristics in your own everyday life. And slowly over time, you'll see that you can change your personality. You can change the way you behave with others, how you interact with others, and the things that you enjoy and you like in life. But I do want to make a side note with that. There's things that you can change, and it's almost everything that you can change about yourself, but there's also a lot that you can't. And putting energy into something that you can't change is not only a waste of time, but it's also not something that will bring you any good. I mean, in life, we often accept physical disabilities like immediately. A person without legs, they won't walk. And we know that unless you use like the braces, they will never learn to walk. But if we're talking about neurodivergent topics, for example, we often expect people, or we expect ourselves, to be able to change. And that just won't happen. You have other things and traits that make you special. We can't change what is ingrained in our DNA. You can't goal set that away. If you have ADHD, you will probably never be the most organized person. You can learn how to manage it, but you can't learn how to not have ADHD. For me, for example, I have anxiety. I will never ever be a non-anxious person, but the ideal version of myself does not have anxiety. She knows how to deal with it. And there's a big difference in trying to improve your quality of life by setting goals that align with who you are, instead of trying to goal set and change the things that we can't change and the things that you don't have to change. In my friend group, I have someone with ADHD, I have someone with autism, I have someone who's hypersensitive, I have myself who has anxiety, I have had friends who had depression and other mental illnesses. It is so normal today in everyday life, and yet we still try to change it, and we still think that people who are neurodivergent, who are struggling mentally, aren't good enough. And I'm by no way saying stay depressed, because that's how it's supposed to be. But it's okay to not fit in with the biggest group, and it doesn't mean that you have to change or goal set your whole entire identity away. That is the point of creating your dream life. It's creating a life that fits with you. It's not trying to fit yourself into a box of a life that you've seen on others. That is what I really stand for on this channel. We are going to create an amazing, magical life with everyday experiences that serve who you are, instead of you having to serve yourself up in a certain way to fit standards and expectations. So before we move on to the next part, take one final look at your vision. Have you kept yourself small? Have you set limitations for yourself? Have you not dared to dream big enough? To see if you actually did that, ask yourself 2 more questions before you move on. What would you do if you could not fail? And what would you regret if those 3 years would be the last 3 years of your life? What would you regret not doing, not trying, not pursuing? Go back to all your answers with those questions and dare to be bold, dare to be brave. It's just putting it on paper. You're not making a commitment that is life or death. But you can aim higher, and I believe that you can achieve more than you think you are capable of today. So go back, be bold, be brave, and then we're gonna move on to the next topic, which is translating your vision into goals. And this is where the practical side of creating your dream life comes in. So yes, of course, we can dream and we can create our vision and we can write it down and make a vision board, and then by the end of the year you see that nothing has happened. And that is because you haven't taken concrete action, and you probably didn't do that because you didn't have a plan and you didn't know where to start. That is one of the main reasons that people don't reach their goals. So, in order to prevent that, we are creating your plan of a lifetime. It's going to be detailed, it's going to be bold, but it's also going to fit you, and we're also going to make sure that it isn't overwhelming whatsoever at all. It's gonna be great. Trust me, if you love planning, you're gonna love this. So once you figure out what we want, we're going to look at what are the things that you actually need to accomplish to live out that dream life. If you want to buy a house, you have to buy the house. If you want to be running a successful business, you will have to start the business. If you want to be a content creator, you will have to start creating content. There's a lot of things in that dream life that you can stick very clear actions and goals to, and that is exactly what you're gonna do at this part. So write all of those things down, write all of the things that you need to achieve down, so that afterwards we can go and dissect them and we can make them into smaller parts that then eventually are going to break down into habits, and those habits are going to be what makes you reach your dream life. That's the secret. Translating that vision into everyday habits. It's that simple. But a lot of people don't take the time to do this, which makes for them failing. I have used this strategy for about 2 years now, and it has created a life that I could have never imagined that I would be living. It's great. Trust me, it works. I built this whole channel around it, so it works. To make those big goals manageable, you'll have to break them up into steps. And I like to think of it as writing a book. So first you are making the draft, you are putting down the big events, and then you create the chapters, which will be your yearly goals. And then those yearly goals will be filled with all the events and things that happen, and those will be your monthly goals. And then there's things that lead up to those monthly goals, and those are your habits, basically. It doesn't make that much sense now I'm saying it out loud, but you get the idea. We start with the big picture, we break it all the way down. And this breakdown can go one of two ways. There's two options that you have. You might create something that looks like a ladder. So you have to complete one goal, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. Or you will have something that's a little more messier. And the first option looks kind of like getting a degree. In order to get a degree, you will have to graduate. In order to graduate, you will have to pass every year. In order to pass every year, you will have to pass every exam. And in order to pass every exam, you will have to go to class, study, take notes. You see how it boils down? It's very easy because it's a very linear approach. But for other things like starting a business, for example, you will have to do a million different things all at once. There's not really an order. Sometimes it will build up on top of each other, but there's lots of different things that you can start doing. And those type of goals are a lot more overwhelming. And that's where essentialism is going to be your biggest friend. Start with the things that make the most impact, and then start with the small things on the side. We're going to boil down our 3-year vision into a 1-year step guide for this year. So break it down in those 3 blocks, like year 1, year 2, year 3, and you're going to start working with year 1. What do you want to have achieved by the end of year 1? And once you have that, then break it down into quarterly goals. So every 3 months, what do you want to have achieved by then? And then monthly goals, and then daily habits and actions to get to those monthly goals. And then figure out what you have to do every single day to make it happen. And if you're like me, you're gonna plan all of those actions in. You're really going to plan all of those goals into your agenda at the beginning of the year, so it guarantees that you know what you'll have to be doing, and you'll write down the habits and everything and every single thing. But there's a very, very, very important but in this. You don't have to do every single thing at the beginning of the year. We all have that motivation, that January motivation, but there's a lot of goals that don't actually take 12 months to complete. So instead of starting your year with 100 different goals, try sticking to implementing 5 new habits every single month. By implementing 5 new habits every single month, it's way easier to stick to them. It becomes a routine, it becomes something that you don't have to think about it anymore. And then then the next month, you can add 5 more. If you do this every month of the year, you will have 60 new habits in place by the end of the year. Imagine how much your life would change with 60 new habits. But if you start tomorrow with 60 new habits, chances are very, very slim that you're going to realize all of them and that you're going to stick to all of them. So start small. Try climbing up your mountain of your goals slowly. Don't sprint, go slow. And you'll win the race, because the other people will get exhausted and they will give up. And then something that a lot of people in the goal setting community don't talk about, except when it's about accountability buddy, is that achieving goals on your own is way harder than if you have a support system around you. If people are talking you down, if people don't believe in you, it's way harder to believe in yourself. So make an effort to surround yourself with people who believe in you, who think the same, who are after the same goals. And this can be in your friend group or your family, but it can also be online on forums like Reddit, or you can maybe find people in your area that do the same thing. Maybe there's a business club in your area. Maybe you are ashamed of what you're doing because of your family or your friends and how they might think about it. So make new friends, not replacing your old friends, because they obviously serve a place in your life, but you can find people that you need in order to realize the goals that you have. If you want to start running a marathon, connecting with somebody who's trying to do the same thing will be way easier than somebody who doesn't understand your passion for running. They probably won't be able to motivate you as well. So really try to connect with people that, one, can help you achieve your goals, and two, that will support you in whatever you do. I promise you that life will be a whole lot easier if people actually help and are not dismissive about what you're trying to do. It sucks, I know. I have people in my life who are really dismissive about what I'm trying to do here, but I'm also building up my group around me of people that actually understand that I make a podcast, and I love them. I really, they're the best. They're the best people. And then we have the bitch of all bitches in this whole entire journey of building your dream life, and it is your limiting beliefs. It is fear. It is not knowing whether you'll succeed, and fear is one of the biggest bitches of all time. And I understand that it used to be very useful, like in ancient times when you could actually be in danger and fear would tell you run. But nowadays, fear is mostly fueled by stories. It's fueled up by stories that we make up in our head, and often we even choose the worst case scenario because it's easier to be afraid of that than of the small things that could actually go wrong. But so how do we get rid of that fear? How do we start and not be paralyzed by fear? Well, like I said, fear is a story. It's a story that we write in our head. So write that story down. Write it down. What are you afraid of? What's gonna happen? And then look at it as if a friend was talking to you, as if a friend told you that story. And that will help you to, instead of looking at it with fear, that you probably will start looking at it with facts, and you might be able to change the narrative that's going on in your head. So it allows yourself to not only prepare for what actually could go wrong, but it also helps you to let go of those really irrational things. So what I like to do if fear is paralyzing me, I write down my story and I write down what I'm afraid of. For every fear, write down the consequence of what you're afraid of. So for example, you're afraid of failing when you start your business. What will be the consequence of that? How can you prevent that failing from happening? Come up with solutions with as many different options as you can. What could you do to prevent that? And not starting is not an option. So what could you do to prevent that? And if it would happen, but we already tried to prevent it, but in the worst case scenario, if it would happen, how would you fix it? And you'll often see that it's actually quite manageable to either prevent it or to fix it. And your anxious brain will probably calm down once you know that. And there's also something quite empowering in that. It's taking back control, and that is something that's also very, very important in building your dream life. Taking back control is basically letting go of the opinions of others, and that is easier said than done, I know, but you are the one living your life. They aren't going to build it for you, and they don't have to. but that also means that they don't get a say in what brings you joy. A lot of people will try to protect you, and they're scared that you will fail, and you can do the fear exercise with them if that helps, but you don't even have to spend your energy on them. But it's extremely important, and it's one of the topics that I'm most passionate about on this channel, is that you take the radical responsibility of making this dream life happen. Because if you don't put in the work, and it will be hard work, I make it seem easy with all the goals, and yes, if you break it down into habits, it's going to be a whole lot easier, but it's not easy. It's still going to be a whole lot of hard work. You're going to be crying because what the hell did you start? It's going to happen. We all do it, but the difference is that you have a plan. And when the plan becomes overwhelming, you can adjust the plan if you want to, or you can go back to it and see that you made it manageable. But you will have to make it happen. You will, oh my God, they're coming to visit this apartment and I can hear them downstairs. So I have to wrap up this episode real fast. But yes. And now my brain goes blank, of course. So yes, is it scary that nobody will help you build your dream life? Is it scary that you're on your own? Yes. But isn't it also a little liberating? Because that means that you get to do whatever you want. You get to choose the direction of your life. And that is the part for me that really keeps me going. It's my life. I get to do with it what I want. It's my dream life. So if you enjoyed this episode, and I really hope you do, I also have an ebook that has a whole lot more information about the topic that you can find in the description box down below. It's what I base my whole 2023 planning off. So it's great. I'm running a sale right now, so you can go check it out in the first link in the description box. And otherwise, I am still posting every 2 days on YouTube, even though I missed an upload day yesterday. I'm going to try to stick with it, but sometimes life goes in between. If you want more content like this, please subscribe or follow the podcast, and I will see you again tomorrow. Toodaloo, bye bye.